When we look at compounds made from our elements, we have a law of definite composition. The compounds always contain the same elements in constant ratio by atoms or by mass. Different ratios will give us different compounds. We label the smallest unit based on the type of compound it is. So for what we call covalent compounds, which is nonmetal with nonmetal, the smallest unit is a molecule. It will be two more atoms bonded together in a consistent fashion, and these atoms are sharing electrons between themselves. For ionic compounds, which contain metals and nonmetals, the smallest unit is called a formula unit. The smallest unit is actually the positive and negative ions, but the formula unit is the smallest unit of the compound, which is neutral. So we express these compounds using chemical formulas. The chemical formulas show the elements present and how many atoms of the elements are present. So baking soda contains 1 sodium, 1 hydrogen, 1 carbon, and 3 oxygens present. Sometimes we use a parenthesis to highlight some structure in the compound, and a subscript outside the parenthesis. The subscript multiplies everything inside the parenthesis. We have a set of elements that consistently form molecules containing 2 atoms. These are called diatomic elements. This includes hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine. So air contains nitrogen gas containing molecules of N2, oxygen, and then it also contains oxygen containing O2. So whenever we show these elements, we have to show them with the subscript 2, because that is how we find them in nature. And we can remember these by the phrase of have no fear of ice cold beer. Have for hydrogen, no for nitrogen, fear for fluorine, of for oxygen, ice for cold, iodine, cold for chlorine, beer for bromine. We have a couple categories of compounds. We're going to be focusing on inorganic compounds. Inorganic compounds are compounds that do not contain carbon and hydrogen together. We also have, let's see here, the other half of that is organic compounds. We're not going to study organic compounds, but we will use some for examples. So organic compounds contain hydrogen and carbon together, and they can contain oxygen and nitrogen, as in our amino acids, and also sulfur and some other elements in these compounds. A subcategory of organic compounds are hydrocarbons. Hydrocarbons containing only hydrogen and carbon. And this is our petroleum products, are hydrocarbons. Of the inorganic compounds that we are studying, we have 2 categories that we'll be looking at. Covalent compounds, also called molecular compounds because the smallest unit is a molecule. Covalent compounds contain nonmetals, so it's nonmetal bonding to nonmetal. In this process, these atoms are sharing electrons between themselves. The other category is the ionic compounds. This is metals bonded with nonmetals. In this case, the metals give up electrons to create positive ions called cations, and the nonmetals accept the electrons to form negative ions called anions. So when we have ionic compounds, when we dissolve it in water, the positive and negative ions completely separate from each other. When we melt a ionic compound, the positive and negative ions are not attached to each other. They flow freely through the melt. And in the solid, they form a alternating array of charges, but there's no specific combination of one ion with another ion. So the compound overall is just the ratio of the positive and negative ions that make a neutral compound. So that expression of that ionic compound we call the formula unit. And ionic compounds will include table salt, sodium chloride, baking soda, sodium bicarbonate, and titanium peroxide, which is used for the whitener in paint, and quite a few other products. So the compounds that we are going to study in this course include binary ionic compounds. That will be a metal with a nonmetal. A ternary ionic compound, that will be a metal with a polyatomic anion. We also have binary molecular compounds that contains two nonmetal elements bonded together. Then we have two categories of acids. So an acid is a compound that will release hydrogen ion in water. And anything dissolved in water, we call that an aqueous solution. So a binary acid will be hydrogen with one other nonmetal dissolved in water. And a ternary oxyacid will be hydrogen with a polyatomic anion dissolved in water.